We're coming to you from the Petronet stand here at Gastech 2018. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined now by the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Prabhat Singh. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to join us. You now are the biggest importer of LNG in India. A lot of business, of course, from around the world, but talk to us a little bit about your main source and about how it is in terms of being the biggest importer of LNG.
We feel very proud that we are one of the biggest importers of LNG in the country, and you would be happy to know that we nearly serve around 40% of the country's energy requirement. And like you said, we import majorly from Qatar and Gorgon in Australia. So therefore, and in the imported part, if you really see, out of all the imports happening in gas in India, we are actually covering 80% of that. So that's a big thing. We feel very proud about that.
Indeed, it keeps you very busy, and you look at, population growth, you look at growth in the economy, you look at a growth in the middle class, and basically growth in demand for energy. Always on the upscale in certainly in India too. But when you look at all that growth, huge amount of infrastructure that really has to be built in the country to support that. Talk to us a little bit about the work that's going on there in terms of, supplying all that growth and making sure the infrastructure's there as well.
Okay. I think you've struck the right element in this whole process, because gas today is abundantly available all across the globe at very cheap prices. Only thing which is stopping it from coming to the consumer is the infrastructure. And not only at the consumer end, but even at the producer end it has to be done. But since you're asking me about India, let me talk to you about what is happening at the consumer end. And we at consumer end, we actually are... The government has gone all out to see that city gas distribution flourishes, and city gas distribution today, out of the 140 million cubic meters of gas which we consume, is hardly consuming 23 million cubic meters of gas, which is comparatively low as compared to the world standards. And therefore this effort from the government side, they have recently awarded nearly 86 geographical areas, which actually amounts to nearly covering 29% of the population of India. And it entails nearly around $10 billion worth of investment on ground in terms of infrastructure, which is going to be there to see that all this happens in the next 3-4 years. So that's one major part, and there is the other small-scale LNGs also which is coming up. So that's something which we would also talk about the infrastructure there as well.
Indeed, and when you say small-scale LNG, I think it might be a little bit misleading, because it might be small-scale in one, but volume is huge. So talk to us a bit more about that, because a very, very interesting development too in the industry, and one that I think you see growing, which will also be very good for business, I'm sure.
Right. Small-scale LNG, like you rightly said, the name is actually misleading, because it's a big-ticket item there. And even if we look at the small-scale part in terms of utilizing LNG as fuel in the trucks and buses. So leave aside the existing trucks and buses, the new trucks and buses which are coming every year. There are around 250,000 of trucks and 85,000 of buses which come, which when we add up actually comes to nearly around 8 to 9 million tons of LNG. Now that is huge, because India today is importing only 20 million tons. So we are nearly jacking it up by another 50%. And infrastructure for that has to be done. And therefore there is an effort. Petronet itself is running a pilot project on this. If you want to know, I'll let you know about that as well.
Indeed, no, do please tell us more about that, because it's fascinating, and I think, as you say, you just look at the tremendous growth there's going to be there. And also, I think positioning gas too as a cleaner fuel. It's really displacing diesel and petrol and that, so for the cities and indeed for the whole country, I'm sure environmentally it's better.
No doubt about it, because India that way, although it's doing very good at the Kyoto Protocol, but all these are going to be additives onto that, and the lifestyle is changing hugely. We have nearly put in around on LPG cylinders in the villages, we have gone into some 50 lakh cylinders have been done in the last, 50 lakh connections have been done in the last 3.5 years. So LNG also is going to add to that. And when we look at the pilot project which I was talking about, which is going to kickstart that, the ecosystem for all this. We are covering an area of around 4,000 kilometers of highway, right from the top north to the western side of India and up to south, from Delhi to Trivandrum. And we are putting up nearly 20 to 25 LNG retail outlets there. And we aim that we start with nearly around 10,000 trucks, which should be there to showcase everything that yes, this is possible. And once that is done and this becomes a kind of business for everybody, then like China, where you have nearly 550,000 trucks running and they have nearly 3,000 retail outlets, I think India would be looking forward to move in that same direction on that.
Well, that's very exciting development, and of course to keep up this pace too, you're expanding too. Tell me about the expansion of the terminal, particularly on the west coast in Gujarat, but then I believe you're also heading eastward as well.
Right. We actually today are owning one of the largest capacity terminals today in India, which is 15 million tons. And just to tell you, this is one of those terminals which for the last more than a decade has been working more than 100% capacity, and that too without any incident, which is the best in the world today. So that's one big, I would say, badge for my people here, that we are working at world operation levels, world standards. But this terminal also we are expanding from 15 to 17.5 million tons. And although the scheduled date is sometime June 2019, we intend to do it earlier, as we've always done in Petronet. And like you said, all the terminals in India are mostly on the western coast. We are also looking at having a terminal on the eastern side. So we are exploring 2-3 locations. And very soon, if everything goes well, you might hear something from us that we are putting up a terminal on the eastern coast as well.
So it's watch this space. We heard it here, so that's very exciting news, something we can all look forward to, and indeed it'll be great for India. Talk to me very quickly, just we'll wrap it up in terms of when people talk here. Is this a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? And I heard you talk at the VIP session, so give us a few words on that.
Actually, anything which I say is going to be controversial, but point I'm trying to indicate here is it's neither a buyer's market, it's neither a seller's market. Although I would be tempted to say it's a buyer's market because there is everything which is indicating in that direction. But I would say if we leave it as a partnership market or partners market, that is something which will make it happen. And we want to see things on ground rather than holding our cards to our chest and saying that it's for me or it's for you. So let's collaborate together, and that's the message which I am asking and I'm discussing with all the suppliers as well, that time has come that we collaborate together and make this vertical happen. Because if it doesn't happen, it's like Boolean term, no. If it doesn't happen, we get zero. If it happens, then we can get whatever benefit we can out of that. So it's a partnerships market.
And indeed it becomes a win-win for everybody. And have you started maybe some of those relationships here at Gastech 2018? How has this conference and exhibition been for you?
Oh, this has always been a mecca for any gas producer, supplier or consumer. And as always, we have struck very good chords with people here. And we have continued with some dialogues which we were having with the people. We have struck some new chords and we would follow it up now. So it's always a benefit to come to such kind of conferences and showcase ourselves as well, because then people recognize Petronet on the world map, which is a very proud moment for all of us. And we have got a few ideas and we are trying to work on them. So let's hope that this works out in favor of both of us or all the players whom we've contacted with.